Hi, I'm Joanne Lee Cornish, body composition coach and slightly obsessed with being an outlier in midlife and beyond. I offer one-on-one coaching. I have 7 group coaching programs that I run throughout the year, and I also have a 10-month mentorship program. You can find out all about those and a lot more at my website, joannelee.com. Okay, let's get on with this podcast. Hello, and welcome to Midlife Mayhem. Today, I want to talk about products, 2 products in particular. I want to talk about a skincare product that I use, with the caveat that I am no skincare expert at all. I'm just sharing my own personal experience with an $8 product. And then I want to talk about an amino acid product and this question came up by a friend of mine. So let's talk about them. What is the product I want to talk about for skincare is niacinamide. So niacinamide is a great example of a super simple product that is really effective. Now, I use niacinamide in a powder form. Like I said, I think I bought it for, I said $8, but I think it was actually 6. And what I do is I actually add the powder to my own serum at night. And honestly, it's been one of the best things I have done for my skin. So if you follow me, you know I do my own microneedling. I'm not the best with retinol products. My skin gets super angry, and I know I should persevere. And I'm 58 and I've been trying for about 30 years, and I just struggle with those products. My skin's so sensitive, and I'm sure I'm doing something wrong. But anyway, that niacinamide, I am having great results. And what is it? So niacinamide is vitamin B3. It's not like some trendy ingredient. It's not like a cosmetic trick or anything. It's a vitamin. And our cells instantly recognize it for what it is. So what does vitamin B3 do? It plays a central role in NAD plus production. And NAD plus is fundamental to cellular energy, DNA repair, inflammation control, skin barrier integrity. So a lot of people think niacinamide is just about pores and redness. A lot of people use it for the clearing of the skin, but it's actually, cellular support. And again, I use it topically. So the main benefits for the skin is niacinamide. It helps to strengthen the skin barrier, which I think that's one of the reasons I love it so much. It reduces trans epidermal water loss. So, at 58, we kind of want to keep that water in the skin. It calms inflammation and redness. I'm English. I have a lot of redness in my skin. It regulates oil production. That's not really so much me. It generally improves texture and tone over time, not overnight, over time. What I have noticed is my skin's more resilient, it's more hydrated, it's really evened out, no redness, and my skin is just, definitely better. I don't know what to say, texture and tone. I would go with all of that. So I feel like my skin has just quietly become more resilient and a lot less reactive, as well as this clearing, this evenness that I've got with it. Now, you can buy niacinamide. You'll usually get it in a serum, a dropper form. So why do I use the powder? I use the powder, and I'll tell you the company in a second, is because, niacinamide is actually extremely stable, but like most active, it degrades over time, and it degrades once it's mixed into a formula. So if you buy it in a already blended formula, like in a serum or something, it might have been sitting on a shelf. It could have been exposed to light and air. Often it doesn't contain the preservatives you might actually need for that shelf life. Whereas when I use the powder, I control the dose. I probably use more than I need, but again, it's like $8. I avoid all the unnecessary fillers that, some of them have. And by just adding it to a serum, I create a fresh product every time I mix it. So I add a small amount to, I use this very simple hydrating serum. That's also dirt cheap. It comes with a tiny little scoop and add it to the serum. It's usually a hyaluronic based serum and I use it every night. So that's it. No drama. The brand I use is The Ordinary. So I've used different things by The Ordinary for a while. It's certainly not fancy. They're pretty honest. They are, they're single ingredient focused. There's no storytelling nonsense. There's no fancy packaging. You're simply paying for the ingredient, and they're very, very inexpensive. So I was already using a cleanser by this company, The Ordinary, which I love. I love that cleanser. And then on Instagram, there was this English dermatologist, and he said, and I was using some hyaluronic by them. I had a couple of things by The Ordinary, and he said, go out and buy this product because it will sell out. And it was the powdered niacinamide. And so I immediately went online. He was right. It was sold out. I think I found it on Sephora, and I bought, I think, 8 tubs of it. But again, it was either 8 tubs for $6 or 6 tubs for $8, something like that. But it was I know it was under $40 for the whole thing. And each tub lasts you forever. So you might want to look at that. The Ordinary, check them out. You'll be shocked at the prices, but you can see they're just very, very simple single ingredient products. There might be better, there's definitely a lot worse. But with this powder, it made so much sense to me because it's going to be so stable. So basically, by using the powder, I'm getting a new product every single night. It's freshly mixed. I will, after I've filmed this, recorded this, I'll take a look and I'll see if it is for sale on Amazon. But otherwise, just look up The Ordinary and look for the powder of the niacinamide. And you can let me know what you think. But I love that stuff. I use it every single night. What else do I want to talk about? So something else that came up was a friend of mine asked me, and she'll be listening to that. Hi, love. She'll be listening to this, sorry. And she said, hey, Joe, there's these amino acids and they look really good. And, I know it's really important to get our protein in our amino acid. And I'm looking at these amino acids. And on the label, though, they say they're made from plants. And I'm just wondering about what you think about that, because in my coaching, I'm always talking about how complete proteins come from animals. And I thought that's a very valid question. And I answered it, but I thought it will also make a good podcast topic. So, real quick, when I'm talking about complete proteins coming from animals, and it's one of the topics in my Muscle Month program, which is starting on February the 16th. Guys, my gosh, check that program out. Super, super fun program. Muscle Month, February the 16th to March the 14th. Obviously, I talk about protein in there, and I will talk about complete and incomplete proteins. A complete protein has all the essential amino acids. Some amino acids are not essential, and some amino acids are essential, meaning that the body can't make them and you have to get them from food. Basically, if the sun hit a face that sort of, sun hit something, sorry, that, made, if it came from something, I've always said if it comes from something that took a breath, it's a complete protein, which is pretty gross. But then I heard somebody else say complete proteins come from things that had mothers, and I thought that was even more gross. But basically, animal-based proteins, whether it's the animal or what the animal produces, so it can be the chicken, it can be the egg, it can be the cow, it can be the milk. These are all complete proteins. So they have all essential amino acids, which is cool because the body really, really likes all the essential amino acids to be available. Then we get plant-based proteins, which are with the exception of soy quinoa, buckwheat, they are incomplete proteins, meaning that they do not contain all the essential amino acids. They're usually missing lysine, methionine. And so, to get in, and I know some people don't like this, it's just the way it is. So if you want to get enough protein and enough to make complete proteins from plants, you generally have to eat about 35% more. That's the general rule. So you better be eating a lot of plants. But they are incomplete. Now that doesn't mean you can't make them complete. And there's websites dedicated to this. So you can look at, bread and peanut butter. There's the amino acids that are missing in bread or in peanut butter and vice versa. So if you have a peanut butter sandwich, you kind of get a complete protein. I mean, you get a lot of carbs and a lot of fat, but you can make up a complete protein. It's not going to be as good as an animal-based product, but you can get it. So, vegans get really smart about this. They know exactly how to combine different plants to get complete proteins, and that's fantastic. I've really, I've got to be careful when I say this, but I'm going to say it. Most vegans are very, very smart. Vegetarians, not so much. I've come across some misguided vegetarians, but vegans usually pretty educated when it comes to this stuff. Now, so again, to get to all the complete amino acids and the complete proteins that the body needs to do all the functions of protein, let alone build muscle. Yeah, you can do it from plants. You're just gonna have to eat a lot of them, and they're not going to be quite as good, but you can do it. You can do it. And so then, my friend was like, "Well, Joe, you're always saying that animal-based complete proteins are superior. They are, but this amino acid product it says all the amino acids come from plant-based proteins. What gives? Well, protein itself. I mean, I can see the confusion here because we're confusing food structure with biological function. So protein is simply a chain of amino acids. Now, your body doesn't care if those amino acids came from beef, peas, fermented tanks, or indeed a lab, I don't know. It cares about what amino acids are present, in what amounts, and in what ratio. So the plants are called incomplete because individual plants tend to be low in one or more of the essential amino acids. Most commonly, it's leucine, lysine, and methionine. Now, leucine is a big one because leucine is the amino acids that's primarily necessary to build muscle. So, if you've got you're eating a protein that's low in leucine, and you want to build muscle, that's not an optimal path. Anyway. And again, that's why food combining exists. And like I say, vegans get very smart and they know exactly which plants to combine to get the complete amino acid profile in the correct amounts and in which ratios and in the correct ratios. But the distinction here is we're not talking about whole plants when we're talking about an amino acid supplement. We're talking about isolated amino acids. So once an amino acid is isolated, it is no longer plant-based or animal-based. It's just an amino acid. So leucine is just leucine, lysine is just lysine, isoleucine is just isoleucine. Your muscle cell does not ask or criticize you for the sourcing of your amino acids. It just cares that they are there or not, in the right amount, in the right ratios. Um, So by the time you get so when you get something like a plant-based amino acid, they're typically produced through a fermentation process where the plant substrates are used to create pure standardized amino acids. Again, at that point, by the time they reach your scoop, they are chemically identical to animal-derived amino acids. They are absorbed rapidly. They bypass digestion issues associated or which can be associated with whole proteins. And this can be especially important and useful for midlife and beyond adults, people with gut sensitivities, anybody struggling to eat enough protein, those people taking the GLP-1 medications. all the people that are protein challenged. And that's where the metric really does matter. It's not about animal versus plant. It's about total essential amino acids, the leucine threshold, which I talk about in Muscle Month, mTOR activation, which I talk about in Muscle Month, muscle protein synthesis, guess what? Which I talk about in Muscle Month. If you do not know what the leucine threshold is, if you do not know the importance of mTOR activation or how we stimulate muscle protein synthesis, and you're wanting to build muscle, that's a challenge. And I talk about all of them in detail in Muscle Month. Anyway, so at this point, the amino acid supplement, the powder she was talking about, and it being plant-based, that's fine. That's fine because all the amino acids have been isolated and put together in the right amounts that is correct and fabulous. So the muscle doesn't respond to labels. The muscle doesn't respond to a bias about what's perceived as good and bad and right or wrong. It just responds to the amino acids available. And that's what this product does. And now I'm forgetting the name, but I think it was definitely overpriced. I think it was at Perfect Aminos or something like that, which is a fabulous product, but it's overpriced. These are amino acid people. I personally, I think I sent her the link for NutriCost, which was something like, I think it was like $40 difference or something like that. Hey, you can pay for a label. I've got no problem with that. You can pay for marketing. I've got no problem with that. But you don't have to. So I didn't even think about that, but that kind of brings the two topics together, doesn't it, nicely? Well, when I'm talking about niacinamide for my skin, and I'm talking about amino acid powder, and in both cases, I'm saying, hey, neither has to break the bank. What's good for your skin doesn't have to cost, $200 a tube, and what's good for your body, it can be just as well, just as good. You don't always have to pay for the marketing and the label. You just have to know what's inside is quality. So again, the companies I spoke about, The Ordinary, you can look it up. And gosh, I will try and remember the dermatologist's name on Instagram because he really is good. He's very, very good. And the amino acid supplement, just check your label, check the brand. I would suggest not overpaying, but if you want to, believe me, I overpay on plenty of things because it makes me feel better about myself. But in this case, I think it's unnecessary. But I hope that explains why, yes, the amino acid is plant-based, but it's absolutely awesome and effective and high quality because the amino acids have been isolated and then compounded together. My new website, have you looked at it yet? joannelee.com. Awesome source. There's still a few glitches. A few people were overcharged for shipping. I've fixed that and refunded them. Sorry if that happened to you. All my supplements are on there, which fabulous. My 5-amino and my SLU. Lots and lots of videos on YouTube about those. And just the sales pitch, which you're going to get until February the 16th when I start. Muscle Month is starting. You will know more about muscle than 95% of trainers. And I stand by that comment. I absolutely stand by that statement. It is very, very accurate and it is fascinating. Muscle is not built by accident. It is built quite simply if you know the strategy, and it's fun. I'll finish with one thing. Be deal about muscle right now. And the reason it's so talked about and is the buzz topic is great. People are losing weight all over the place and they're being told, oh, you got to hold on to your muscle, you got to hold on to your muscle. Then there's a frightening scenario there because if they don't have the right strategy, which most people don't, the period don't, their effort's not going to be paid off. And the danger there is they're in an aggressive environment of weight loss whilst not having the strategy to build muscle correct. And those two situations are working very rapidly against them. Now, so if that is you, and if you've enjoyed weight loss and you'd really like to sustain it, I will leave you with this. And I'm sorry if it's a bit of a downer, but sustained weight loss without muscle preservation is just about impossible. Just about impossible. Fat loss without muscle preservation. I won't say impossible. Let me just say it's incredibly problematic. And maybe I'll do a podcast. I'm making a note just on that. Why it's so difficult to sustain weight loss if you're losing muscle. Muscle isn't just a pretty thing, it's a metabolic tool. And again, when you lose it, it's pretty darn difficult to get it back, especially if you're living in an aggressive environment of weight loss. So I'm speaking to some of you out there. I have no dog in the fight whatsoever. I just want to support everybody in their goals and give them the information to move them towards their goals with, ease and joy. My mantra for this year: overlearn so you don't have to overthink. Overthinking is creates anxiety, it creates frustration. So it's quite simple. Just overlearn. Learn as much as you can about what you want, and the goal won't just be, probable, it will be absolutely possible. Muscle Month starts on February the 16th. It runs till March the 14th. 10 live coaching calls, full access to me for the full month. There are workouts, there are nutrition, and there's also a content library. I cannot cover everything in the 4 weeks. There is a content library which you have access to for 365 days. There's over 50 pieces of content in there. There was actually 70 the last time I looked, but I probably should clean that up a little bit. I wouldn't miss it, guys. I really wouldn't. musclemonth.com. I do hope you enjoyed this podcast. You can find me all over social. Just search for my name, Joanne Lee Cornish. And of course, my website, joannelee.com. Be sure to check out what program I have got right now. I'm sure to be running something. And remember, you can always contact me, joanne@joannelee.com. Until next time.